Hey friends, this is Mr. Chad Mayhew with our fourth video in this series. This one is function domain word problems. That was hard for me to say. Okay, so in this Khan Academy video, I don't know why this isn't moving. I command you to move. There we go. Um, we are going to read a little story problem and we're going to answer two questions. The questions are always going to be about some function that we see. So I'm just scanning this and I'm seeing T of A down here is the function it's going to ask us about. And then it's going to be asking us about the domain. The domain is going to be appropriate maybe in integers or maybe in real numbers. So we have to make that decision. And then we have to look at the intervals and decide which of these intervals is best. So when we get to the question about integers versus real numbers, we're going to look back over here at the real number system. I want you to remember that the integers are going to be all of the naturals, which are the positive counting numbers, plus 0, which is a whole number, plus the negative counting numbers or negative whole numbers, right? So integers is it going to be this? If we choose real number, it's because we also want our fractions and decimals, the rational numbers, which are all of the fractions and decimals, the things that can be written as a ratio, and also perhaps the irrational numbers, numbers that cannot be written as a ratio of two numbers, like pi and the square root of 2, which don't really come up today, but we're really thinking about, is it going to be integers, which is positive, negative whole numbers, or is it going to be the larger group, which is the decimals? We can think about it as that way for this particular Khan Academy. Okay, let's get into the first one. We'll do 4. The altitude at which we boil an egg affects how long it takes for the egg to achieve perfect hardness. I didn't know if you know that or not, but if you have a big tall mountain and you put an eggy down here and you put an eggy up here, that this eggy at the bottom will boil faster than the eggy at top. And it has to do with air density. I don't know, one of those random things I learned in school. Okay, it says it takes 198 seconds to boil a perfect egg at the lowest place possible, the edge of the Dead Sea, which has an altitude of negative 418 meters. You'll notice I highlighted these. I'll explain it in a minute. The highest place possible is the summit of Mount Everest, which has an altitude of 8,848 meters. It takes 209 seconds to boil a perfect egg there. Now you know. T of A models the time in seconds it takes to boil a perfect egg at an altitude of A meters. Now, as you do this Khan Academy, you have to be very, very careful. What is the X value? What's the domain? So the domain here is altitude. You'll notice that in this one I highlighted it yellow. T of A means that whatever's inside the parentheses, that's our domain, that's our X value. And then I also put some yellow highlighters here at the negative 14, that was the lowest place, and the 8,848, the highest place. As I shift my attention to my questions of is it an integer or a real number, what I'm making sure I'm thinking about is the altitude in meters. Now, you know as well as I do, meters are not the only way to count in the metric system for length. So we're not going to choose just positive and negative whole numbers. We're going to need fractions and decimals of meters as well, which means we're going to have the rational numbers. And if we want to include the rational numbers in this, then they are giving us the choice of either integers or real, and I'll take real. Okay, the appropriate domain, all of the possible X values for this. Well, I've already starred them. This was the lowest place possible, and this was the highest place possible. So now I'm looking for something that has a minimum of negative 418 and a maximum of 8,848. I think I can see it as choice A here, and so I'm going to choose that. When you're doing Khan Academy, you have to get both of these correct to move on. Otherwise, it'll tell you a part's correct, part's not correct, and so on. Okay, let's go on to the next problem. Puja. Puja's plant began sprouting 2 days before Puja bought it. All right, this is a little weird. So I'm thinking that 2 days before Pooja bought it is going to look something like this as a series of x values. Uh, and she had it for 98 days until it died. So I'm thinking the day she bought it would have been day 0, and 2 days before it would be this -2 days of the days that it was sprouting. At its tallest, the plant was 30 centimeters tall. Okay. H of T models the height of Pooja's plant in centimeters T days after she bought it. So the T is the days. And that's what I have here. I have this being my domain, my X values. All right. So with that being said, which number type is more appropriate for the domain? Well, in the days, I'm not going to have, oh no, wait, I've already done this one and I got it wrong. I made a mistake. I thought it was going to be integers because I was looking at that. But time is incremental. Time is actually going to be divided up even smaller than days. So even though we're thinking about days, and I tried that the first time and I got it wrong, they're actually looking for real numbers here because in all reality, they are correct. It's not just days that we'd be looking at. It would be hours and minutes and seconds. And those are all, you know, fractions and decimals of a full day. So I have to catch myself. I almost went with the wrong one. Um, okay, and what is the appropriate domain? Well, the appropriate domain is going to be um, the smallest amount of days and the largest amount of days. So we are going to go ahead and choose this smallest amount to largest amount looking domain. And it would be this. Real numbers because of the minutes and hours and seconds and stuff, and then minimum and maximum. Whew. Almost missed that one after I had already tried it on Khan. I told you this was a tricky one. Okay, Alice's freezer can be set to a range of temperatures from -6 degrees to -1 degrees. I'm just going to write that out. -6. Okay, so she is getting from -6 to -1 and everything in between. When the temperature is -1 degree Celsius, it takes 4 hours to freeze. When it's -1, it takes 4 hours to freeze. The shortest time is 2 hours when the temperature is -6 degrees. T of T models the time in hours it takes water to freeze at a temperature of T degrees. T of T is, I think, the most annoying function I've ever seen in my life. Who does that? Really? T of T. It's crazy. Okay, this little t inside the parentheses, though, that's going to be our x values, our domain, and this is T degrees. So what we are looking at is only the domain for this problem. We are going from -6 to -1 and everything in between. So let's think about degrees. Can temperature increase half a degree? It can. Can it increase a tenth of a degree? It can. So we're going to want to choose the things that include the rational numbers, not just the integers, but all the real numbers for this one. I tried it. It's correct. I had to test these ones because it's kind of hard. You're looking at integers up here, but you're thinking, well, it could be bigger because there's increments of degrees. So I tested it just to make sure because I care that much. Okay, what's the appropriate domain? The appropriate domain is that this, even though it says it has a range of temperatures, that's really weird. Our domain is -6 to -1. So we're going to choose that interval. Weird wording to use that and weird to use T of T. Con, I'm not pleased, but that's the hand we're dealt. Okay, very last one. Tanya walked for 17 minutes from her home to a friend that lived 1.5 kilometers away. D of T models Tanya's remaining distance to walk in kilometers, T minutes since she left her home. So we are thinking that T minutes is our domain. and she walked for 17 minutes. Okay, so everything we're thinking about is in minutes. Now, you know as well as I do that minutes can be broken down into seconds. So we're going to go ahead and choose. Oh, that's not a highlighter. I was trying to highlight that. We're going to choose the fractions and decimals answer. So between integers and real numbers, we need the real numbers for this one because minutes is time and time is incremental. Okay, and now we're thinking about, well, Tanya walked away. This is the remaining distance, so we're actually getting less and less time. And so we are going to want this 0 to t to 17 so that we can describe all possible minutes remaining since she's left. Okay, and I believe that's all, folks. So that was a tough one. There is a lot going on there. We definitely need our real number system for that one. And I hope you enjoyed function domain word problems, at least more than I did. Some of this was a little rough. Bye.